All right, welcome back to Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And I still have with me the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party in Adamawa State, Dr. Umar Ardo. Thank you for staying with us. All right, now let's quickly touch on your presidential candidates, Mr. Adewale Adebayo, who is a man without prior political experience in Nigeria. You're quite experienced, so how do you intend to brace the odds to win the presidential race?
Please, excuse me, I didn't get the question. If you will kindly make the question again, please.
I will. Your presidential candidate, Adewale Adebayo, is a man without prior political experience in Nigeria, but you're quite experienced. So how do you intend to brace the odds to win the presidential election?
Our presidential candidate, as I said in another place, I would like to repeat it. Our presidential candidate, I wouldn't want to rate his chances of winning the presidential election, but I would want to, rate him as a candidate, as a presidential candidate. Prince Ebenezer Adewale, presidential candidate, is the youngest presidential candidate among all the candidates in the country. He is 50 years of age. Then he is a lawyer. He is a prince in his own place. That means he is a man of good and verifiable pedigree. Then he is extremely a very intelligent person who has a very good grasp of issues and who articulates the solutions very well. And he is, you can say at a point that he is a successful young man who is likely to be a role model to the youth of this country. But having the best presidential candidate does not actually translate automatically to being to victory at the polls. He is doing what he is doing. He is doing his best. He has come to Adamawa State. We were with him in Adamawa State for 3 days. We went around the state, and we have gotten a lot of support in that state. And I don't know of any other state, but in Adamawa State, I believe he is going to do very well. I cannot say I rate him in other parts of the country, but in my own part of the country, I rate him high, in spite of the fact that in my state, we have a powerful presidential candidate of the PDP. But no, a lot of things, as I said earlier, are in the disadvantages of those so-called big political parties who came in through untoward ways and then consolidated themselves and want to continue in the untoward manner. But thank God we have a new electoral system, the Beaver system, that will definitely get to elect the most popular candidate on the field.
All right, so if I heard you clearly, are you saying your presidential candidate does not have what it takes to win the election outside of Adamawa State?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that where I know, I haven't been following him in his presidential campaign trips across, but I've been seeing him in the presidential debates, and you will agree with me that in those presidential debates he participated, he undoubtedly, beat everybody. He got the grasp of everything and related his thoughts, very clearly out there. So if I am to elect a presidential candidate, if I have just to cast one vote, and that one vote will make a president in this country, and they said, Dr. Ardo, cast this vote, I will cast my vote to my presidential candidate. Because I know that by far he is better than the other presidential candidate in this election. Under the present circumstance, he is undoubtedly the best presidential candidate who will solve the problems of the country. And in fact, he ought to be the candidate that will resolve the present quagmire that those presidential candidates, the major presidential candidates seem to pose, to the nation. So I will cast my vote for him, and I believe if Nigerians do not elect him, they will regret it later. I hope not, but I believe he will win the election if, I don't know, I don't want to make any projections, but I can assure you that he is doing well in Adamawa State. That's what I can say now.
All right. The major political parties contesting these elections have their traditional strongholds. I know you agree with me. So then, what will you say is that of the SDP?
If you just be kind enough to repeat the question, I'm sorry, I'm having a problem with the APC.
The major political parties contesting the elections have their traditional strongholds. So what would you say is that of the SDP?
Oh, no, SDP does not have any traditional stronghold because it doesn't have even a councillor. I don't know, but that would be said by the national leadership of the party. But across, like in my state in Adamawa, we did not even, up to now, we do not have even a councillor. But if you look at our plaque-off, which you have shown just a part of it here, if you look at our plaque-off, we did not have even a councillor, talk less of a chairman or a commissioner or a deputy governor or a governor, but we mobilized the entire state, and the entire state was at Ribadu Square to give us support, so much so that it frightened the incumbent. The incumbent could not do that at Ribadu Square. He had to go to a small local government in Shellem to flag off his campaign. So it is actually not about having the candidates or having elected people that you will say, these are our strongholds. No, and we said so. When you contest against incumbents in a failed system, incumbency is no longer a factor. Incumbency is no longer an advantage. The only advantage that the incumbents will have is to have their fingers, in the tilt of the coffers of the state treasury, and then take out the monies and go and do their campaign. That is the only advantage that they have. But these days, money is not a monopoly of only incumbents. A lot of money, go around, and a lot of people have a lot of money. So incumbents will be determined, the election will be determined by their performance, how they perform while they are in office. And I can tell you that both the PDP and the APC have performed woefully bad, because by 1999 to 2023, the two parties drove this country into a state of we are getting into a state of conflagration, because a lot of places, complete failure of security, complete unemployment of our youth, poverty. We've gone beyond poverty level to the level of destitution. Nigeria is being ranked as the #1 poverty capital of the world. Our economy has collapsed, our security has collapsed, our exchange rate has collapsed, everything in the country has collapsed. Now, there are two types of failed states. There is where a government will fail in the hands of the state. We have seen that in the United Kingdom. Less than 1 year, or 1.5 years, 3 different governments failed in the United Kingdom. But you see, you will not be afraid to go to UK now, because the country is strong. It is only the governments that collapse in the hands of the country. Then there is the other side, where the country will collapse in the hands of the government. In our own case, the country has collapsed in the hands of our government, yet the government is now talking and explaining away this collapse of the country in its hand. So you can see that the failure syndrome started with the PDP and then culminated under the APC. So who are you going to choose? Is it the one that started the collapse, or is it the one in whose hands the collapse has taken place? Both of them are not good. So we need an alternative, and that is why if our candidate, if our party will put its house together, send its messages clearly, and do certain political events and activities, we have the chances of winning this presidential election, because people are tired of the APC and the PDP. People are tired of hunger, of insecurity, and of complete, frustration of their lives and property. Look at what happened. Like in my state, for example, in 2014, under the PDP, Boko Haram invaded the entire Northern Senatorial District and then 2 local governments in the Central Senatorial District. And for a period of 48 days, they were the government in power in those local government areas. After that, the government, the federal government, along with the help of the state, the military, thanks to them, they came and then they flushed out the Boko Harams, and then authority now relapsed into the hands of the federal, state, and local government authorities. Now, you would have expected that at least the state government will establish a committee that will assess the level of an extent of destruction of life and property, and then do something to help them to ameliorate this terrible situation that they found themselves. But nothing. The Northeast Development Commission was established by the federal government because of the activities of Boko Haram in the Northeast Zone. But we have not submitted any compendium that this is what happened to us in Adamawa State. These are the number of people that were killed in the state. These are the number of people that were injured. These are the number of houses that were burned. These are the number of cars that were stolen. These are the number of animals that have been killed or stolen. These are the shops, the marketplaces that have been destroyed. These are the shops. These are the hospitals. These are the schools. These are the churches. These are the mosques that have been destroyed. This is the number of needles that have been stolen in our place. And this is what we did as a state government. This is what is required of you at the Northeast Development Commission. And
Dr. Umar, yes, you say people are tired. You say
and do.
All right. Yes, you say people are tired, but the truth is the political contest in Adamawa State has always been between 2 political parties, the APC and the PDP. How will you defeat these well-entrenched parties? What are your strategies?
No. Whosoever tells you,
Please go ahead.
It's mixing up. But whosoever tells you that the contest in Adamawa State is between the APC and the PDP, I guarantee you 100% is not telling you the truth. The political dynamics of Adamawa State has long changed. With the coming of the SDP, we have changed the pendulum. I can guarantee you that. The narrative have changed. People are now gearing for change in the state, especially with the woeful failure of the state administration, and then the PDP, and then the APC's nomination of a woman, which is at variance with the cultural, traditional, and religious values of the state. Virtually, it's a dead horse that been brought in, and the election is a foregone conclusion that PDP will not win the election, APC will not win the election, most likely and certainly SDP is likely going to win this election. The dynamics of the politics of Adamawa State is very clear, and it points to that direction. And any discerning politician, any discerning pundit, political pundit, will tell you of this fact in the politics of Adamawa State.
Okay. You were a political advisor to Atiku Abubakar. Do you consider the 2023 presidential election his best chance?
You said, do I?
You were a political advisor to Atiku Abubakar. I'm asking you, do you consider this 2023 presidential election his best chance?
Whether he's going to win the 2023 presidential election?
Yes. Do you consider this his best chance?
Well, I wouldn't want to say whether he is going to win the presidential election in 2023 or not. There are a lot of factors that one has to take into account. Now, for every vote, now, first and foremost, let us look at the traditional voters of PDP at the presidential level. There are 3 groups that have been constant traditional voters of PDP at the presidential level. And these are the Southeast, the South-South, and the Christian North. And if the Southeast and the South-South and the Christian North move over to Labour or any other political party, then it will be at the detriment of the PDP's vote. So then what will be left will be the Yoruba West and the Muslim North. Now, I don't know, the Yoruba West, maybe Chief Bola Tinubu is likely going to win, I don't know, in the Yoruba West, and then what will be left is the Muslim North that will be split amongst them. So it is really very dicey. I wouldn't want to make any conjectures, but it will depend on the messages that they come up with, on the strategies that they adopt, on the people, that is the electorate, and then the candidates themselves, and on tactics and management of their campaigns. So a lot of factors will have to come into play to determine whether or not the PDP is going to win the election of 2023 at the presidential level. So I wouldn't want to go into conjectures, but this is my position on the matter.
All right, let me quickly take you up on other issues. Earlier, you said you took the PDP to court 11 times, which means your experience with the Nigerian judiciary has not been exciting. The court now appears to have the final say in our democracy. Is this something of concern to you? Dr. Umar.
Yeah, what?
All right, let me repeat myself
yes.
now. Earlier, you said you took the PDP to court 11 times, which automatically means that your experience with the Nigerian judiciary has not been exciting, and the court appears to, have the final say when it comes to our democracy. Is this something of concern to you?
About the Nigerian judiciary, you said?
The court appears to have the final say in our democracy. Is this something of concern to you?
Yeah, I actually, having gone to court 11 times against the PDP and its government, I wrote a book, Court and Politics, chronicling my experience in the Nigerian theater. And I have looked at the court. Initially, all powers are invested in the hands of one person. That is to say, where we have a full monarchy, the king was the executive, he is the legislator, and he also sits, in judgment of the laws that he himself enacted. But over time, these things have been separated, and today, under the democracy that we are practicing, we have three arms of government: the legislature, the executive, and then the judiciary. Now, because there is an interrelationship between, especially there are only two persons that govern society. That is the politician and the judge. The politicians are divided into two groups: the executive and the legislature, and the judiciary is one. That is the court itself. Now, the politicians, that's the executive and the judicial and the legislature, they are elected for a certain period of time and then re-elected for another period of time and then maybe no more. That is in our own system. While the judiciary, they are being appointed by the elected politicians for life. That is to say, until they retire. So both of them have interrelationship. And when there is an issue, the first thing the judiciary looks at is the interest of the politician who appointed them and who can make laws that will affect them, affect their remuneration, affect their tenure of office, affect their appointments, affect their removal, and so on and so forth. Now, these things are at the back of the judge, where the judge is sitting at the bench, trying to pass a judgment on an issue, especially a constitutional, a public issue, in which it will affect the politician. So people that are not strong will usually suffer from this, and I have suffered this thing in virtually all the cases I have put in our courts. So it is of great concern that at the end of the day, after all is said and done, either one man or three people, or at most, sorry, yep, or at most 7 people that will determine what millions and millions of Nigerians have decided upon. So, but that is the nature of our democracy. And if we will all work, with sincerity and honesty and patriotism, I think the system is good enough to take us where we want to go to.
All right. It's 51 days to the conduct of the general election. So what factors do you think will determine the choice of Nigerians in the elections?
What candidate or so?
What factors do you think will determine the choice of Nigerians in the coming elections?
Okay. Well, sadly, the factors that will determine this election will be, there's going to be ethnic, there's going to be religious, there's going to be sectional, and then there's going to be issue base. But the issue base will be the last key element to determine the voting pattern of our people. The central will be ethnic. And for example, if you take these presidential candidates, you will see that, for example, the Labour candidates, his candidacy is based on one, ethnic, which is Igbo presidency, then two, religious, which is Christian dominated, and then third, sectional, which is Southern. That is why after the open letter of President Obasanjo, you saw the leader of the PANDEF Socio-Cultural Organization, Chief Edwin Clark, supporting that position. Then I also think I saw that the leader of Afenifere, Ayo Adebanjo, also supporting this position. The next one that will come is most likely going to be the middle belt, the leadership that will come and support the nomination. So if, and I will support, the position of Obasanjo, that is endorsing the Labour candidate. Now, if these things happen, then it shows that these three areas that have been the traditional voters of PDP at the presidential level will now switch itself to Labour. And if they do so, then what will be left will be Yoruba West and then the northern, the Muslim North. Now, this will be divided between the APC candidate, the PDP candidate, and the NMPP candidate, and probably also with the SDP candidate. Now, if this happens, then you can be sure that there's going to be a likely runoff in the politics of the country, the presidential election of the country. There's likely going to be a runoff.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Ardo. Dr. Umar Ardo is the Social Democratic Party candidate, governorship candidate in Adamawa State. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.